Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. Let's dive into a story where one single moment at a luxury ballroom made time stop, glasses shatter, and secrets explode. Ladies and gentlemen, the host called out, raising his glass. A toast to loyalty, partnership, and new beginnings. The crowd clapped. Laughter echoed off the chandeliered ceiling. The jazz band softly played a Sinatra cover. Everything smelled like rosewater, an expensive betrayal. That was the exact moment I pushed open the double doors. Silence fell. I wasn't alone. On my arm was a woman in a navy blue dress, elegant, poised, her stare sharper than the diamond on her finger. She wasn't my wife, but she was someone else's, someone who had made the exact same mistake I had, trusting the wrong people for far too long. We didn't say a word. We just walked in, calm, eyes locked on the front table. And that's when it happened. Marlo, my wife, looked up and saw us. She froze mid-laugh. Her lips parted. The champagne flute in her hand tilted slightly. Her boyfriend, the charming executive whose ego couldn't fit through a regular doorframe, slowly turned his head. His smirk evaporated. The room didn't gasp. It exhaled, like the tension had finally found a crack and burst through. I didn't need a microphone. I didn't need to shout. All I did was stop halfway through the room and pull a single white envelope from my coat. I didn't hand it to her. I handed it to a waiter. I simply said, "Deliver this to the woman in red. That's her seat." And then we walked to the opposite side of the room, like we owned the place, because in that moment, we kind of did. Now, I know what you're thinking. Who was the woman on my arm? What was in the envelope? How did I get here, from clueless husband to the man who hijacked an entire celebration? To answer that, I need to take you back. Not weeks, not months, just 5 days. Because 5 days before this party, I thought I was happily married. 5 days earlier, I was in line at a dry cleaner, arguing with a stranger about who left their ticket on the counter first. That's how ordinary that day started. Nothing about it felt like the beginning of an emotional demolition. No ominous music, no warning signs from the universe. Just me, a crumpled suit, and a voicemail from my wife saying, "Love you, don't forget to pick up your tux for Friday." Friday, right. Her company's annual celebration. The one I was supposedly too awkward to attend the year before. This time, she insisted I come. Her words were, "It'll be good for us." And I wanted to believe that. God, I needed to believe it. But that night, something slipped. I was looking for earbuds in her gym bag and found a receipt. Not just any receipt, but one from a rooftop restaurant I've only dreamed of affording. Dinner for two, pricey wine. A note written by the waiter in cursive at the bottom. "You two make a lovely couple." My name wasn't on it, her boyfriend's name was, except I didn't know he was her boyfriend yet. The name? Devin Ellerby. I only recognized it because she mentioned him once in passing. Some guy from logistics who always talks too much. Apparently, he talked his way into her life while I was busy fixing our garbage disposal and trying to remember what her favorite flower was. I didn't explode. I didn't scream. I did something worse. I sat down and Googled his name. And that's when the universe stopped pretending to be kind, because the first image that popped up was Devin grinning at a fundraising gala, with his arm around a woman, not my wife, his. Her name was listed in the caption, Lenora Ellerby. I stared at that photo until my laptop screen dimmed itself out of boredom. Then I took a screenshot. Then another. I started scrolling through tags, event pages, LinkedIn bios, all of it. What started as suspicion became confirmation. Marlo wasn't just having an affair, she was having a public one. They were careful, but not invisible. For the first time in our 9 years together, I truly saw her. Not the version I painted in my head. The real her. The one who kissed me on the cheek while checking her phone under the table. The one who smiled at me while mentally packing for someone else's arms. And I was done pretending. So I messaged Lenora. I didn't write a novel. I just said, "You don't know me. But I think we're being lied to by the same people." She responded within 10 minutes. And just like that, the fire was lit. Lenora suggested we meet at a bookstore cafe 2 towns over. Neutral ground, she said. No one knew us there. No chance of running into mutual friends or coworkers. Just 2 strangers bound together by betrayal. I arrived early, sat by the window, ordered tea I didn't drink. My hands kept twitching. I couldn't tell if it was nerves or adrenaline. I imagined a dozen different versions of her, angry, cold, vindictive. But when she walked in, she looked calm, not broken, not furious, just hollow in a way that made me sit up straight. Like something in her had already burned down, and I was just there to sift through the ashes with her. She didn't waste time, no small talk. She slid her phone across the table. Photos, screenshots, Devin and Marlo in restaurants, hotel lobbies, even a blurry one from a gas station at 1 a.m. The timestamps were enough to break my ribs. I had nothing to show her but the receipt. One stupid receipt that somehow pulled a thread long enough to unravel everything. "They've been together for over a year," Lenora said, her voice steady, almost surgical. "And we've both been financing their little fantasy without knowing it." That line stuck with me. Financing their fantasy. Like we were some kind of emotional ATMS, covering their guilt, their bills, their image. I asked her what she wanted to do. She stared at me for a long moment, then said, "They're attending a corporate event this Friday. He doesn't know I've seen the invite. I say we go together." I blinked. "You want to crash the party?" "Not crash. Appear, quietly, deliberately. I want Marlo to see you walk in with me. I want Devin to choke on his drink. And I want them to know we're not as stupid as they think we are." It sounded like something out of a bad movie, but she said it with such calm resolve, I couldn't help but nod. Over the next 2 days, we messaged back and forth in secret. She sent me the dress she planned to wear. I got my suit tailored. We rehearsed how we'd walk in, where we'd pause, how we'd deliver the envelope I was putting together, filled with copies of every receipt, message, and booking we could find. Not to make a scene, just to make them squirm. The night before the event, Marlo asked if I had plans for the weekend. I said I was thinking of visiting my brother. She smiled, kissed me on the forehead. "I'll be at the hotel late. You know how these events go." Yeah, I knew exactly how they went. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of the person I loved breathing beside me. The same person who thought I was too dull to notice her slipping away. But I wasn't asleep anymore. And in less than 24 hours, neither would she be. The ballroom was colder than I expected, not in temperature, but in tone. Everything sparkled, but nothing felt warm. Glittering chandeliers, gold trim on every tablecloth, string quartet humming something classical in the corner. It was elegance for the sake of appearances, the kind of place where people lie with their eyes wide open and everyone claps just loud enough to cover the whispers. Lenora and I stood outside the main doors for exactly 15 seconds before walking in. Not rushed, not dramatic, just certain. She took my arm like we'd rehearsed, and we stepped into that room like two people who had nothing left to lose. I scanned the crowd automatically, even though I knew exactly where they'd be. Center table. Of course. Devin had always needed to be seen. Even in the photos Lenora showed me, he never looked at her, just at the camera. Marlo sat beside him in a crimson dress I'd never seen before. Not once in our 9 years of marriage had she worn red. That color was for someone else. When her eyes landed on us, she didn't react at first. Her smile held for half a second too long. Then it twitched and vanished. She stiffened like she'd forgotten how to move. Devin turned toward her, confused. And then his face drained like someone had cut the power. We didn't break stride. We didn't wave. We didn't make a scene. But every head in the room turned. It was quiet. Not funeral quiet, but strained. Like a string pulled too tight. A few people whispered. One woman audibly gasped when Lenora and I stopped beside a passing waiter and handed him a thick envelope. Lenora gestured discreetly toward Devin and Marlo's table. "For them," she said simply. "Make sure they open it here." The waiter nodded, clearly confused, but too polite to argue. He delivered it as we took 2 seats at the opposite end of the room. Not beside friends, not near anyone. Just alone, but no longer invisible. We didn't look directly at them, but we didn't need to. The ripple effect was instant. Marlo reached for the envelope with trembling fingers. Devin leaned in as she opened it. The lighting from the chandelier caught the color draining from her cheeks. They saw everything. Screenshots, receipts, GPS logs, even a printout of a hotel reservation made in both their names 2 weeks ago. It was all there, on thick white paper with no message, no threats, just facts, evidence. Devin stood up suddenly, knocking his chair back. It scraped loudly against the marble. People turned. Marlowe reached for his arm, trying to keep him seated, but he shook her off. She whispered something to him, too fast for anyone to catch, and he stormed out like a man fleeing a crime scene. Marlowe stayed frozen. Her hand rested lightly on the envelope, as if it might burn through the table. She didn't move. Not until the host took the microphone and awkwardly cleared his throat, trying to bring the evening back to its original purpose. We didn't stay long after that. Lenora and I had made our point. We didn't need applause. We didn't want revenge served loud. Just visible, just undeniable. Outside in the night air, Lenora finally exhaled. "I thought I'd feel relief," she said quietly. "But all I feel is hollow." I nodded. Same. But it wasn't over, because the fallout had only just begun. By the time I got home, my phone had already started vibrating in my pocket like it was possessed. 3 missed calls, then 5, then 7. All from Marlowe. No texts, no apologies. Just that relentless, panicked call log stacking higher by the minute. I didn't answer. I didn't want to hear the lies before she had time to rehearse them. Instead, I stood in the dark kitchen, letting the refrigerator hum fill the silence while I stared at the red heels she'd kicked off 2 nights ago near the hallway. She always left them crooked like she was rushing out of a life she didn't want to be part of anymore. Now they looked like fossils, as proof of someone who used to live here, someone I didn't recognize. At 3:12 a.m., the knocking started. I knew it was her. I didn't move. Let her stand there. Let her freeze on the porch she used to decorate for Halloween, like it was her own movie set. The knocking turned into pounding, then a voice. "Lyle, please, just let me talk. Just open the door." She hadn't called me Lyle in months. It was always babe or hey or worse. Nothing at all. The kind of casual silence you grow in when someone's already half out the door emotionally. I let her knock for 4 straight minutes. Then I finally opened it. Her makeup was smudged, her hair was pinned back like she'd done it in the car. Her eyes were wild, the way people look when their version of reality just got burned to the ground. She tried to walk in like she still lived here. I stepped in her way. "You lied," I said. Flat, cold. "I know," she whispered. "I know. But can we just sit down and talk about it like adults?" I wanted to laugh. Like adults? That ship sailed when she started booking hotel rooms under fake names and deleting call logs faster than I could blink. "Why him?" I asked. She blinked, hesitated. "I didn't mean for it to go that far. You don't trip and fall into someone's bed, Marlowe." Her mouth opened, but no words came. She looked like she had 20 versions of an excuse lined up and couldn't pick which one would make her seem the least monstrous. "You looked me in the eyes and told me I was paranoid." "I was scared," she finally said. "You weren't present anymore. You've been distant." That was her play. Blame me for vanishing, even though she was the one already gone. I shook my head. "I was here every night, Marlowe. I asked you if you were okay. You said you were tired, but you weren't tired. You were busy falling in love with someone else." Her lip quivered. For a second I thought she'd cry, but she didn't. She just looked down, like a kid caught stealing but too proud to apologize. "I didn't think you'd find out like that," she murmured. "That's the part that bothers you?" I snapped. "Not that you did it, just that I found out in front of 100 people?" Her silence said it all. Eventually I let her in. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to hear what excuse she'd used to justify torching our marriage. But what she said next? It changed everything. She sat on the edge of the couch like it was a courtroom bench, legs pressed together, hands trembling in her lap. I stood across from her, arms crossed, heart racing faster than I cared to admit. This wasn't the kind of moment where yelling made sense. I didn't want an apology. I didn't want excuses. I just wanted the truth, no matter how much it hurt. And she gave it to me. "You're not going to believe this," she said, eyes locked on mine. But it didn't start with Devin. I didn't say anything. I let the silence do the pressing. "I met someone else last year. Before him. Someone at a seminar in Chicago." My stomach dropped. I hadn't even asked the right question yet, and already the floor was falling out beneath me. I wasn't prepared for a second name. I wasn't prepared for there to be more. "I didn't sleep with him," she added quickly, "but it was emotional. Texts, calls, late-night FaceTimes when you were asleep. He made me feel seen, like I wasn't just someone's wife, you know? Number. I didn't know, because I never made her feel like just anything. I planned anniversaries. I remembered her coffee order down to the exact swirl of oat milk. I learned to tolerate her terrible true crime podcasts in bed. But apparently none of that made her feel real. I let her continue. That ended. It fizzled. But then I met Devin, and he was just consistent. He didn't ask questions. He didn't expect me to fix everything all the time. With him, I could just be messy. So you liked being messy with someone who didn't love you? I asked. She flinched. That landed harder than I meant it to. It wasn't about love, she whispered. It was about escape. You were always so steady, so safe, and sometimes that made me feel like I was drowning. That was the moment something inside me cracked, not from rage, but from clarity. She didn't cheat because she found someone better. She cheated because she mistook stability for boredom. She confused comfort with confinement. I gave you my whole life, I said quietly. And you ran because it wasn't chaotic enough? She nodded slowly. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to stay. I just needed to say it. We sat in silence for a while, two people in a room filled with the ghosts of everything we used to be. Her tears finally came, soft and silent. Mine didn't. I'd cried enough alone already. Eventually she asked, "Is there any way back from this?" I didn't answer, because I honestly didn't know. The next morning, the silence between us was louder than anything she'd said the night before. Marlo had slept in the guest room, or at least pretended to. I hadn't heard her door close until just before sunrise. Maybe she stayed up waiting for me to crack first. Maybe she hoped guilt would bring me back to the version of myself who apologized, even when I wasn't wrong. But that version of me was gone. I made coffee like I always did. Same mug, same bitter roast. But I didn't set out a cup for her. I left hers in the cupboard, just high enough that she'd have to reach for it and feel the weight of what she'd lost. When I opened my laptop, I wasn't expecting anything. Just habit, check emails, scroll through news, try to forget. But one notification stopped everything. She'd left her cloud account signed in, not on purpose, not as a trap, just out of carelessness, the same kind of carelessness that had been bleeding through our marriage for the past 2 years. And there, in the auto-synced folder, were screenshots, a whole thread, not between her and Devin, but between her and Lenora. It took me a second to process what I was looking at. Weeks before the party they had messaged, Marlo had discovered that Lenora knew. And Lenora, cold, calculating Lenora, hadn't just agreed to expose the affair. She'd orchestrated the entire plan, right down to the moment I'd show up with her on my arm. The plan wasn't just about making Devin and Marlo uncomfortable. It was about humiliating them, publicly, permanently. And I'd been a pawn in it. They'd used me. Marlo's messages to Lenora were frantic, desperate. "Please don't bring him," one read. "He doesn't deserve that kind of humiliation." Another, "I'll break it off with Devin. Just give me time. Don't do this to him." Please, Lenora never responded to the last one, but she saw it. I sat there for a full 10 minutes, staring at the screen, trying to figure out what stung more. The betrayal I'd already processed, or the realization that my revenge wasn't mine at all. When Marlo finally came into the kitchen, she looked at me like she wanted to say something. Maybe start another half-truth, or reach for some broken version of honesty. But I closed the laptop slowly, stood up and said, "I know." She froze. "Lenora played both of us," I added. "And you tried to stop it. But it's too late, isn't it?" She didn't deny it. She didn't cry. She just nodded. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just a broken marriage anymore. It was a war zone. And I was the last one still standing in the open. I didn't leave in a dramatic blaze of glory. No packed bags, no shouting match, no broken dishes or final screams. Just me, a weekend duffel, and a note that said everything I needed it to. I deserve peace, not explanations. That same morning, I booked a cabin 2 hours north. Quiet, no Wi-Fi, the kind of place where no one asks why you're there alone. I didn't go to punish Marlo. I didn't go to run from the mess. I went because, for the first time in years, I finally remembered what stillness felt like. At night, I sat by the fireplace and replayed the chaos like a film I didn't audition for. All the pieces made sense now. The slow fade, the emotional gaps, The mental math I kept doing to convince myself things were just a phase. But the truth is, I'd been fighting to hold together a version of my marriage that only existed in my own head. And when it finally cracked, I didn't fall apart. I found clarity. Marlo called twice during that weekend. I didn't answer, but I listened to the voicemails. The first was full of tears. The second was quieter, almost peaceful. "I know you won't come back," she said. "And honestly, I don't blame you. I just hope you find someone who sees how steady you are and doesn't mistake that for weakness." That stuck with me, not because it made me feel vindicated, but because it was the first time she ever really saw me. When I returned to the city, I didn't go home. I went to a lawyer. I asked for a clean, quiet divorce. No drama, no revenge, just freedom. Lenora, surprisingly, sent me a message apologizing. Said she'd let her anger take the wheel. I believed her, but I never replied. That chapter was closed. It's been 7 months now. I have a small place of my own. I started hiking again. I adopted a dog. I changed my number. And last week, while cleaning out an old drawer, I found the envelope I had once handed to a waiter in a hotel ballroom. I almost threw it out, but instead, I burned it. Not out of hate, out of release. I'm not bitter, I'm not angry, and I'm not broken. I'm just finally free. That's the end of my story. If you've ever been through a betrayal, a confrontation, or a turning point that changed the course of your life, share it in the comments. Whether it ended in heartbreak or healing, your story matters. And you never know who might need to hear it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Reddit Confessions, the place where every secret eventually comes to light.